After 5 years, 95% of those that have lost weight gain it back on any given diet. Why is that the case? People will take shortcuts to get out of getting uncomfortable. Changing your eating habits, that's one thing. But taking something and still eating garbage, you're setting yourself up for a big, colossal failure.
Nothing will replace that hard work.
No, you can't take away putting in the work in the gym, backing it up with the food in the kitchen.
Are there any good shortcuts?
Wouldn't have been able to get where I got had I not. That's the ultimate shortcut.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Weight Loss and Lifestyle. I'm your host, Cristy Code Red, author, entrepreneur, retired professional boxer, and yeah, you recognize him by now. We've got IFBB Pro Jeff Lader back on the program, and of course, entrepreneur. He's had close to 8,000 successful clients. He's highly sought after in the industry, and we have got a good one today. But Jeff, we're recording this smack dab in the middle of January of 2025, and we are right in the middle of a cold winter. I just came in from walking Hazel, and I'm wearing a beanie today for you guys, a little different. I don't think you guys have ever seen me in a beanie before. But Jeff, my friend, you are not a big fan of the cold, are you?
No, and I think I need the beanie more than you do. I don't have any insulation on the head here like you do. So yeah, it's something you don't think about when with bald people. Like, we have to protect our head in the sun, and we have to heat our head in the winter because there's no insulation. It's just skull, it's a skin. That's it.
You guys, I tease Jeff all the time because Jeff speaks fluent Spanish. And I'm like, Jeff, I'm telling you, you need to get out. He hates, he's not even late. He hates the cold, you guys. Even though he's from Utah, he would rather be on the beach with the sun. And I'm like, Go to Costa Rica. Go to Costa Rica, Jeff. Get out of Dodge.
Yeah, the sun is, well, the heat, I should say, is where I belong. Not in this cold climate. I'm not built for it. Even though I'm Scandinavian by heritage, it's that has left my body, and I am done with the cold by now.
I don't think I've ever asked you if you ski or snowboard.
I did growing up. I snowboarded. I started skiing, and this was back when snowboarding was just being introduced. So they weren't even allowed. There was only one ski resort here in Utah that allowed snowboarders on the mountain because it was like this outlawed form of winter sports. And yeah, I did that for a few years, and then when I got into college, I gave it up because it was too expensive.
It's so expensive. Even for a homeowner at Tamarack, I'm telling you, like, they barely give us a price break on lift tickets. It's so, and if you got kids, and if you guys are going to eat a burger at the Mid-Mountain Lodge, forget about it. You better start selling pictures of your feet.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's only gotten worse. I mean, I was complaining about like $40 ski lift tickets, and now they're probably like 3 times that.
Yeah, they're over $100, and it's ridiculous. It really is. Yep. So. Well, we are talking today about chasing shortcuts, and this is something that Jeff is pretty passionate about. You know, he's a heavy hitter in the bodybuilding industry, and he coaches clients that are a little more of your higher upper echelon client that's just looking for that extra oomph. They're already successful. They already have a baseline level of fitness, and Jeff just takes them and gets that extra 1%, takes them all the way to where they want to go. Because your clients can only get so far without you, Jeff, and your program really puts that final nail in the coffin. It gets them all the way to the tippy top. And you've had so many incredible people come through your program that have just done tremendously on it.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's the hardest part of a transformation, is that last little bit. That's where the body resists you the most, and then where strategy and tactics really become, they're necessary. You're not going to get there through the basics most of the time. And so it takes somewhat of a complex approach and a deep understanding of the human physiology in order to get there.
Well, we have for you today 3 each. We have not, I said, don't tell me what yours were. And he was looking down and he was writing this down. I was like, let's see what he comes up with. We've each come up with 3, our top 3 or our main 3, or however we want to say it, biggest workarounds, biggest shortcuts that people are trying to always take when losing weight and getting in shape. I focus more on the weight loss as far as no shakes, pills, diet, foods, or exercise. Jeff takes a bit of a different approach. He does do the muscle building aspect and diet and optimizes hormones. And so we're both, the end goal is the same. We're trying to get people healthier, trying to get them out of the drive-through and into the kitchen. He just works with a little different clientele. So I'm excited to hear what your 3 workarounds, Jeff. Should we start? Should one of us just start with our first one?
Yeah. Well, you're the host. I'll defer to you for the first one. I'm afraid that we may end up with some similar ones because there's some very common ones that are happening right now. But yeah, I'm here. Let's go. Let's go with yours first.
I think our first one, you're going to go, shoot. Guys, I think we both can agree it's semaglutide. It's semaglutide. Yeah, it's the stupid and guys, they come in different forms. You got the Wegovy, you got the Ozempic. You can get them on Weight Watchers offers them. Amazon Pharmacy offers them. Costco now offers them. Mm-hmm. You can get these everywhere. So you would agree with my first one, Jeff?
Yep, that's what I had written down. Is the GLP-1 agonists, all the semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, all the different forms. Yep.
Are you seeing this with your clients, or are you just seeing this with people that you're just in contact with in general?
I do see it sometimes. Like some people will be on it when they come to us, or they were on it prior to coming to us, and they're trying to come off of it. I see it in different forms. Most of the time, they don't start it when they're with me. So that's kind of pursuing 2 different avenues. But yeah, I see it. Probably not as much as you, but I do definitely see it.
So we're talking about basically, and I about 2 years ago when Ozempic really started to come out, I did a podcast called Ozempic versus Code Red. I did all the major, you guys remember Weight Watchers versus Code Red, Beachbody versus Code Red, and I broke them both down. And so we all have a basic understanding of what the semaglutide, the Ozempic, it's like calling a Kleenex. It's like calling all tissues Kleenex, but yeah. we know that it slows the emptying of the stomach. We know it causes the constipation. It makes you nauseous, makes you not want to eat. Problem is, studies are shown that 60% of the weight loss is from muscle. I mean, over half of what you're losing is muscle. So you're basically starving on a cellular level, right, Jeff? Am I getting all that right so far?
Yeah. And actually, I would say, it's, if you lose, let's say you lose 30 pounds on the diet, 15 of that most likely is muscle. And so, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and talked with doctors and stuff like this. And if you're over 50% body fat, that's like for a doctor that's ethical, that would be the only candidate potentially that could take advantage of this. Because if somebody loses 30 pounds and they only had 30 pounds to lose, and 15 of that was muscle, their body fat will end up now being higher than it was, because they lost that lean mass in the process. And unfortunately, and I think I maybe have said this in the podcast before, but when you lose weight like that and you lose muscle in the process, what you end up looking like is a melted candle. I don't think that's anybody's ideal picture in their mind of what they would want to end up looking like. It's kind of graphic, but yeah, that's what can happen, especially when you lose that much muscle in the process.
So in your opinion, because I have my opinion, but I would love to hear what your opinion is of why people are turning to this.
Because they don't have to do anything. I mean, and literally I would say like the number one thing that people are looking for, if you were just to put it in general terms, is what can I take rather than what can I do? And so if they can take something without having to take any action or get uncomfortable or put any work in, then that's always going to be the route that most people want to take, regardless of the complications or the consequences. At least that's their initial thought until they experience those consequences. And then they're like, oh crap, now what? And so I get a lot of the now what's after and a lot of regret. And I've had a lot of people contact me because I've spoken out about this in the past, and I've gotten some hate for it as well. And I mean, there was one particular girl on Facebook that was pretty outspoken about me being outspoken. And then a couple months later, she messages me and she says, hey, I'm in the hospital right now because I have frozen stomach. I have gastroparesis. This happened to me. So please, please, please keep talking about it, because people don't realize that this is what can happen. And she's like, I was planning on being on this for the rest of my life because my doctor told me that I could. And then now she's dealing with that with just a few months into it. And so those are the consequences that we want to ignore. right? We just want to be blissfully ignorant and unaware of all these potential side effects because, hey, if I can lose weight, great. Without doing anything, absolutely, that's what I'm going to do. And before Ozempic or all these other GLP-1 agonists, people were trying to take other things, that we've been through the phases over the years. There's fen and even the HCG diet, was ephedrine years before that. I mean, all sorts of shortcuts that we're looking for to get out of getting uncomfortable.
And nobody's talking about I just heard the other day about a lady having stroke-like symptoms in one eye now from the, and we're talking your stomach paralysis, gastroparesis, stomach paralysis. Guys, really? Is this the route you want to take? Are you really that desperate? You really have that low of willpower, or you just refuse to set yourself up? You refuse to put in boundaries and discipline and in place? You just, I just don't get it. Like, that's bad when someone gets that desperate. I mean, I saw a meme and this lady was like, all I need is my Xanax and my Ozempic and I'm good to go. And I'm like, okay, good luck with that, lady. And that's why they have the Ozempic face, because these people are starving. Their cells are not getting the nourishment they eat, because when they do eat, they're not eating enough and they're not getting the minerals, they're not getting the nourishment, and they just starve. It's disgusting.
Yeah, if I were to describe it in one sentence, is it allows you to tolerate starvation. Because you simply do not have the appetite to eat anything. And so, yeah, you're definitely going to be malnourished because you're not able to eat anything. And, with you look at protein, protein's, super important when it comes to even just basic human function. I mean, the protein is an absolutely necessary macro. Without protein, you're starving your body of all the chemical reactions that happen as a result of protein consumption. And not just muscle loss, but basic function. And so, again, I don't think we've seen the full fallout of this yet. It's happening every day, but nobody's going to talk about that because Big Pharma is making a ton of money off this. All the doctors are making a ton of money off this. And unethically, they're prescribing it to people that only have 10, 15 pounds to lose, and versus somebody that maybe has 200 pounds to lose. And that's unethical. I think they should have their licenses removed for something like that.
My grandma, she's so old, you guys. She's like she's so old. She's demented. She's like 93, 94, 95, something like that. She's demented. She's 150 pounds overweight and she's got breast cancer. Like, I don't know how that woman's even still alive. And they've got her on semaglutide and it's working great. She's dropped 50 pounds. Now they can transfer her. Now they can, that's probably the only person that, that I'm like, give it to grandma, because it's making her caregivers, it's a little easier. And really, like, what does grandma care at this point?
Right. And that's why I would say, like, I wouldn't take a hardline approach and say it's not appropriate for anybody, because there are certain candidates that for sure could benefit from it. But, when you look at what's going to result in long-term health and wellness and fitness, and when you're taking something and you're not changing any of your daily habits, you're not changing your behaviors, you're not changing your relationship with your food, then how is that stand a chance of lasting? It simply won't. You'll be dependent on a drug, a very powerful drug, for the rest of your life. That's not going to work. That's why when people come off of this stuff, they gain it back. And they may not gain it back for like a year. So people will be like, oh, I'm a year off of it, I'm still maintained it. Okay, give it another year. And because, like, when you look at like the stats of like long-term, actually when they say success from a weight loss program, they actually judge it on a 5-year basis. So after 5 years, 95% of those that have lost weight gain it back on any given diet. But why is that the case? It's because they're not learning anything in the process. They're not developing the right habits. And whatever they did to lose the weight was not sustainable. And so this is like that times 1,000, because they're not doing anything. And so if somebody was like changing their eating habits, that's one thing, right? But if they are just taking something and still eating garbage, which is going to be the case for the grand majority of people, you're setting yourself up for a big, colossal failure.
Well, very well said. So, Jeff, what is your next one? The next workaround, the next shortcut that you see people in your industry or anytime trying to chase?
Well, I had just written down pills, because I think that it's kind of along the same lines. It's because, as I said in the beginning, just what can I take? And it's funny because that's a common question that I get. It's like, what supplement can I take to help me lose weight? It's like, well, you can take the dumbbell off the rack and start lifting it. That's what you can take. take your ass to the gym. Like those are the things that you need to do. There's nothing from a supplement standpoint that's really going to be much of a game changer for most people. They can help, but they only help with efforts that are already being made. And so it's the same story, different form, but it's been around forever. And that's the mindset that so many people have. It's like, okay, I'm going to get on a diet. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a supplement store. I'm going to go to GNC. I'm going to go to Amazon and buy some supplements because that's what I need first. That is so low on the list. It's like one of the last things you should do.
And I had fat burners on one of my top 3. It was just the thermogenics. And I know that there are some powerful, and most of them are banned. I mean, I remember back in the day before it was banned, I took clenbuterol as a derivative of Clenbuterol, and oh Lord Jesus! I mean, I thought I was getting ready to meet Jesus. I mean, it was powerful stuff, and of course, that was quickly banned. Like 2 weeks later, it was terrible. And this is the kind of stuff that people try to take it off of QVC at 2 a.m. when they are watching, and they see this 23-year-old saying, like, I just took this pill, and then they order it, and it's a thermogenic. And of course, true thermogenics, they do raise your core temperature, they do help your heart rate speed up, and then you burn more calories, but it's still not good. It's still the workaround. It's still not going to undo a bad diet and not getting your exercise.
Right. And with that specifically, there are heart concerns. There are cardiac concerns that happen as a result of that. That's why it's not available here. I mean, if you look at like clenbuterol, it's the long-acting version of albuterol, which comes from the rescue inhaler. So it's a bronchodilator. It actually helps you breathe better. And so it can be prescribed for somebody that has maybe some severe asthma, but they actually only do that outside of the US. Hasn't been approved by the FDA for very good reasons, because it's very dangerous. But yeah, ultimately, like you look at that or ephedrine or fen-phen or any thermogenic or any ad that you see. In fact, I'll just say this because I saw one last night where it was advertising about how it was going to increase the growth hormone levels for men. And as a result, you're going to lose body fat and you're going to build muscle and you're going to do all these things. And people see that and they're like, oh, and I saw the comments. And it was liked like 4,000 times, and there was like 1,000 comments. People were like, "Oh, I'm interested. I want to do this." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is snake oil. There's nothing in here that's actually going to move the needle when it comes to human growth hormone, other than taking human growth hormone. And is that actually going to result in a lot of fat loss? No, it's not going to do anything for you unless you are doing the work already. And even then, is it going to move the needle that much? You might be able to see it on blood work. Is it going to manifest itself in the real world? Not at all. Not at all. And you see stuff like that all the time. So whenever you see, like, you have to put your BS meter in the forefront and just ask yourself, if it sounds too good to be true, it absolutely is. 100%. I say that with 100% confidence, because there's no such thing as a shortcut.
And Jeff, you competed in 40 bodybuilding competitions. I mean, you showed up month after month, year after year, show after show to get your pro card. Talk about doing the grind. I mean, nothing will replace that hard work. No.
I mean, you can't take away the foundation, the basics of, putting in the work in the gym and then backing it up with the food in the kitchen. If you don't have those two things, it doesn't matter what you're taking. It doesn't matter, because I took supplements too, but it was like basic vitamins and minerals and nutrients to make sure that I was filling in nutritional gaps, which most of us need to do, multivitamin, fish oil, stuff like that. But yeah, you can't escape the work. There's no way.
We like to say on Code Red, like, we offer a wide range of supplements, and it's they're high quality. They have a high absorbency rate. We get them from Zymogen out of Orlando. They make our supplements, and we like to say that it just could fill a void that you have. Our soil is deficient to begin with, and so even if you're eating a healthy, even if you're eating vegetables grown with the tears of the Tibetan monks, they're grown in deficient soil to begin with. So you're missing a lot of those vital nutrients, and because we've bastardized our crops, we've bastardized our soil. We have not grown crops the right way. So you might need a good quality multivitamin to kind of fill the gaps, like you said, and you might need a probiotic if you're somebody that suffers with bloating and gas and constipation and diarrhea. I don't take one. I don't suffer with that. You might need to, but that's what a supplement does. It just fills the gaps if you need it.
Yeah. If you understand, I mean, it's in the name, the definition of the word supplement. You are supplementing a good diet. But yeah, as you said, even if you were eating organic, non-GMO, and it was like the most meticulously crafted diet in the world, you would still have gaps. You would still have deficiencies. And so it's just due to kind of over farming and lack of nutrients in our soil. And then when you look at like the world that we live in and all the contaminants and chemicals, you start going down that rabbit hole. It makes you want to live in a bubble. Obviously you can't do that, but yeah, I do believe supplements do have a place, but they are there to supplement a good diet and a good healthy lifestyle. That's all. They're not there to do the work for you, and they won't.
No. And definitely people who are chasing shortcuts, the people that try to do the fat burners, try to do those QVC 2 a.m. fat burners. Guys, save your money. It's not going to get you anywhere. So should I go next then?
Yeah. Let's hear what you got.
Okay, here we go. Ready? In-office procedures like liposuction and like cool sculpting. People that do those in-office procedures trying to lose body fat by just removing it surgically from the body. That is someone definitely chasing a shortcut. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to. They don't want to diet for consistently for a long period of time. They don't want to hit the gym. They don't want to do what they need to do. So they just go in and they just say, "Doctor, suck it out." Or they'll try to do cool sculpting. Cool sculpting? What the heck? Or they'll do a seaweed wrap. Those in-office procedures. That is definitely chasing the workaround and chasing the shortcut.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was actually mine as well. Is either surgical or medical weight loss, and so I've had clients come to me that have done like the mommy makeover, right? So you have the tummy tuck, they do all sorts of liposuction, and that's their solution, right? So that's what they want to do. And in some cases where maybe you had a pregnancy and there was a lot of extra loose skin or there's a lot of scar tissue or something like that, that's a different thing. But if you're doing that in a way to remove fat, you can, liposuction is really the only way you can eliminate fat cells, because all they do is expand and contract. And obviously when you're losing fat, you're not actually losing fat cells, you're just shrinking them. But when you do liposuction, they are actually removing them. But if you don't change your lifestyle, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, when that fat comes back because of your unhealthy lifestyle that you continue to live, it's going to come back in a really weird way. It's not going to come back in like a normal, like uniform way. So like if you hold it in your belly, it might come back in like little pockets because maybe the surgeon doing the liposuction wasn't very thorough and didn't cover everywhere. And so you get like these little pockets and it comes in looking kind of lumpy and unnatural. And I've seen so many people that have done the mommy makeover and they come and I see them and I'm like, you don't look like you've had anything done. Like they're huge again, because they didn't change their eating habits. They're not working out. They're not changing their lifestyle. And so it's just another shortcut, and you might look somewhat decent for a period of time with clothes on. And then that doesn't last because you didn't change anything.
We've got people that lose a tremendous amount of weight on Code Red. 200 pounds is really nothing for us. We do that all the time. 100 pounds, we do 3 times a week, because I always send out a crystal engraved trophy to anybody that loses 100 pounds. But then they'll go and do skin removal surgery, which we don't recommend that you do until you are at least a year through the maintenance program, because we have tricks and tips, and we want you to weight train for at least a year, solid, like hitting it hard with heavy weights and doing it with somebody who knows, a good solid 5-day-a-week program, hard for a year before we want you to go have skin removal surgery. And some people are like Gumby. Sometimes you pull the skin out and there's nothing, and there's no exercise for the skin. However, with collagen and with proper diet, with plenty of protein, and with steady weight training, we can get a lot of that skin to come back. But they'll just jump right into having that skin removed, Jeff, and then they don't learn how to maintain. They don't reverse the right way. They don't learn how to maintain. And then you see those people, they have all these scars and they're just as fat as they were before.
Yeah, they just stretch it back out. Obviously every organ is like, the cells are replaced constantly. Right. And so it's not like you can't have stretch marks again, or you can't have skin stretched out again. It's not like that's a limitation placed on it. But yeah, if you lost a lot of weight and you do have excess skin and you have worked to build the muscle and you're following a good diet, you can restore some elasticity in the skin. Not entirely, and age has a lot to do with that for sure, and genetics. Some people just have better skin than others, but yeah, jumping right to that it would be a mistake, because obviously it's most of the time for most people that's not like their after or their end state. Whatever they peaked at is not going to be where they settle or where they maintain. And so yeah, I think that's a good idea to wait on doing that. For a lot of people, though, it does prove to be necessary if they have lost a significant amount of weight. But surgery to help lose the weight is a mistake every time.
Yeah, you mentioned weight loss surgery, and a third of our clients come through. We call them failed weight loss surgery survivors because they have their stomach reduced down to the size of a NyQuil cup, or they have the Roux-en-Y, or they have the they do the different. They might do the different weight loss surgeries, and then they don't change their habits. They're like, you got a stomach that's this big, and then you're still having Cheetos. And you don't you're not doing it. We see the weight regain tremendous from those guys.
Yeah, we get some people that come in that have had the bariatric surgery, and so they have their stomachs have been reduced very, very small, and for a lot of them, they don't tolerate some foods. Like they eat certain foods and they're immediately in the bathroom throwing up, and that's not a way to live. I mean, it for some people it does work. They have gastric bypass, things like that. That for one, it's like completely unnatural to do something like that, but there's also a great deal of risk. And so to take that route, I mean, I don't think that would be advisable for anybody, but of course a surgeon's not going to tell you that because that's how they make their money.
For sure. That's where they make the money. And they don't tell you about the long-term risks. They don't tell you about what your life is going to look like. They don't give you a whole lot of aftercare. I mean, you got to take a vitamin for the rest of your life. Ain't nobody getting out of the rules. We always say this. There are rules for every path that you take. It's hard being fat. It's hard being fit. It's all going to be hard, you guys. So I don't know why and we get just as much weight off of people as weight loss surgery. And so, but people they want that quick. They don't want to do the work. They just want they want their stomach reduced down so bad that they absolutely can't fit it in, or they'll throw it up. Yeah.
I mean, they're, again, searching for the shortcut. And I think it's just that unwillingness to get uncomfortable. And, because it's hard. I don't think anybody should describe it as like an easy task to lose weight. And anybody that's tried knows that that's the case. It takes work and it takes consistency. And you have to make lifestyle adjustments and adopt it as a new lifestyle if it has any chance of lasting long term. Because if anything that you do short term, and that's you could definitely lump that into like my a fourth one where people are trying to do these very short term stints where they starve themselves for a couple weeks, maybe 60 days, and they lose a bunch of weight. They post their before and after, and it's inspiring to other people. And oh my gosh, what did you do? That's what I got to do, and then just perpetuates the cycle. But one thing that I always talk about is what does the after look like? What do you look like a year after, or even like 60 days after your initial 60-day transformation? Do you look the same? Were you able to sustain it? Were you able to maintain it? No. Like almost 100% of the time, they can't sustain it. So they end up gaining it back. And I've seen people talk about this. You'll see somebody, there's one guy in particular, and I won't name him because we're still friends, but I used to see him post about it on Facebook. He's like, oh yeah, I'm doing keto, and whoever wants to know like what I'm doing, I'm happy to like tell you and give you some advice on how to do this. And he was all about it. He was talking about it every single week, and he lost a bunch of weight. Well, where is he now? Well, actually, to finish that story, he kind of went dark. He went silent. He stopped talking about it altogether and wouldn't post any pictures about himself. And all of a sudden it just, that wasn't a part of him anymore. And he never even mentioned it, never brought it up. And then I ran into him in person and I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Because he gained it all back, which didn't surprise me. I mean, you look at the success rate for most of these short-term diets, they're abysmal. I mean, it's like 1% of people actually even survive the year long after before they've gained it all back, like 100% of it back.
We've seen the show The Biggest Loser. Very few people. I mean, that was the highest rated TV show for 10 years on NBC. we all remember The Biggest Loser. None of those guys kept it off. Jeff, I've got a couple of honorable mentions, and I saw this at KetoCon. I spoke twice. I was the keynote speaker at KetoCon in Austin, Texas, at the Palmer Center, 2019, 2020, 2021. I think it was 3 different years that I spoke. And there was the whole expo center full of what I would call the workaround. And it was all these people's favorite foods that were altered to like keto brownies or, keto pancakes, keto bread. Do you think that is as someone who's chasing a shortcut, as someone who goes with those supposedly healthy snack foods, and people that, I think some of it is okay, but it really gets out of hand?
Yeah. I mean, there are healthy alternatives to some of the stuff that we're eating and what we consider to be normal food. Like a lot of people, and maybe your audiences know this, but I'm a big fan of donuts. I love donuts. And people ask me, like, what do you think about protein donuts? I'm like, I wouldn't go near them. They're gross. It's like a rubbery bagel. Like it's not a donut. I don't care what you try to pitch it as. It's not going to be a nice fluffy donut. And I guess if you're really hungry and you're trying to, curb a craving and that does it for you, okay, great. My advice and the way that I really try to coach people is I want them to understand nutrition. I want them to understand food and macronutrients. And when you have a good understanding, I mean, yes, you don't want to eat those types of things on a regular basis, but my philosophy is you don't necessarily need to eliminate them altogether, especially if it increases adherence. So if you can, because consistency ultimately is the key long term. And if you're a normal person, then you're going to have birthdays, you're going to have parties, you're going to have nights out at restaurants, you're going to travel, you're going to have holidays. And in all those situations, you're going to be presented with food that isn't always in your control. You're going to have food that you love, that you used to indulge on, if maybe before your dieting life. And to completely cut those out is a triggering thing for a lot of people. And so it's like, once you tell somebody that they can't have something, that's when they want it the most. And so instead of saying, well, that's completely off the table, you can't ever have that again in the rest of your life. Like, I know you love pasta, but sorry, no more pasta for you. You can just have protein pasta, which tastes terrible. It's not a suitable replacement. So instead, let's understand how we can incorporate this, understand nutrition, understand carbs, fats, and proteins, and even alcohol, and understand like how that can be incorporated into your life. And if they're able to do that, then they're more likely to stick to something long term. And so that's really the approach that I try to take with my people, because it ends up being more sustainable for them if they don't have to completely cut out some of the foods that they love. But obviously it's not a good idea to make that the majority of what you eat, because that doesn't lead to anywhere good either. That's what got you into the mess to begin with.
I personally have no problem with a sugar substitute like a pure raw organic stevia, an allulose, a monk fruit that is from a good, reliable source that we have vetted at Code Red, and we have our list. I know that I like a little bit in my coffee, and I make sure that I use a good source, and doesn't have maltodextrin or maltitol or dextrose or any of the stuff that will spike your blood sugar higher than a white refined table sugar. But I think people can definitely take it too far. But I think if I had kids and I wanted it, and they were like, "Mom, we want you to bake some brownies," I probably would bake it with some RX sugar or some allulose or something, and try not to let. I just don't want them having a bunch of sugar before bed. So I don't know. I can understand why parents would do a little bit of that substituting.
Yeah, I think that there are some good alternatives. I think when you look at like the food industry, like restaurants, chefs, culinary arts, flavor is king, right? And so they're not necessarily worried about the nutrition or the health aspect. They're worried about what it tastes like, because that's what's going to sell. And that's what's going to draw people to their restaurant to buy their foods, their products, and stuff like that. And so it's not necessarily the only route to get there, because oftentimes you can get the taste without having to get all this unnecessary sugar and carbs and fats along with it. And that's where I think sometimes people have the mindset of like, oh, if it's healthy, it's going to taste gross, or it's going to be bad. And some of these alternatives, yeah, they are. They don't taste good. They're not going to satisfy. They're not going to curb that craving. But I think some alternatives, and again, this is like on a case by case basis, they can definitely be utilized and leveraged and help you incorporate some of the foods that you love without the damaging impact of all those calories that you would get if it was made in the traditional way.
Yeah, I completely agree. So Jeff, here's the one I'm going to spring on you. Are there any good shortcuts that you say, yeah, that's a legit shortcut?
A coach. I mean,
Yes.
that was my biggest shortcut. I was banging my head against the wall, so to speak, for the longest time before I really made any significant progress. And like I said, I say this to my clients all the time, that I learned everything the hard way, which meant I did everything wrong initially. And it took, doing it the wrong way to force me to find the right way. And it wasn't honestly, until I hired a coach where I was kind of shown the light and given a path to really kind of unlock the next level of my physique. And I wouldn't have been able to get where I got had I not hired a coach. I mean, maybe eventually, but it would have been a very long road to get there. It's just like anything. If you want to be successful in business, you want to hire a mentor. If you want to learn how to cook, then you have somebody teach you, right? If you want anything, you want to learn how to do woodworking, you want to how to golf. Learn from somebody that is an expert, that's a pro, that is good at teaching, that can show you the way. That will reduce the time there by 1,000 for so many people. And I think for a lot of times people, especially men, I work with a lot of men, there's like this sense of pride, or they feel like it's something that they should know, right? And especially when it comes to like weight training in the gym, it's like every guy thinks they know how to weight train. I can go to any given gym in the world and 99% of the people in there are doing everything wrong. And so if they had the plan and they had the structure and they would humble themselves to take advice from somebody else, they would get there so much faster than had they were just, continue to do these like short-term stints and cheap programs or just trying to do it on their own. And that's the ultimate shortcut really is a coach, in my opinion.
If you want to skip to the front of the line, definitely want to get a coach. I've said that when I went from food stamps to 10 million in 3.5 years, it was because I got a business coach, and I do that presentation, how I went from food stamps to 10 million, and my top 3 rules. And the third one is getting a coach. And people are like, I got this. You don't got this, Karen. You don't got this, or you'd be reaching millions and making millions. So go to somebody who's reaching millions and making millions and say, what are you doing? I mean, what is it saying that a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. Get with someone who has done it and can say, hey, don't even bother going down that path. This is going to get you there quicker. I love that advice. I actually asked you and I was like, good golly, I hope he doesn't ask me because I don't know what to say.
No, I mean, I think this could probably come across as like a pitch for, you and I, but honestly, it really is, it's the truth, and it applies to almost everything in life. As you mentioned, like you were able to be successful in your business because you hired a business coach, someone that has been there, done that, and helped other people do the same thing. You and I both know that in this industry, there's a lot of people that don't really know what they're doing. There's no barrier to entry when it comes to the fitness world. I mean, I've seen this with my own clientele where they've been able to get into great shape. They start posting pictures of themselves and people start hitting them up and say, hey, oh my gosh, you look great. Can you train me? And they start seeing dollar signs and they're like, oh, well, yeah, I can regurgitate what I was given and see if it works for you. And then if it's a different body type, or actually if it's the same body type, it might work for a little while. And if it's a different body type, they can't help them at all because they don't have a good understanding of nutrition, of human physiology, and they don't know how to overcome obstacles that definitely will present themselves along the way. So, I mean, not just any coach. Obviously, you want to work with somebody that's qualified and knows what they're doing, that has your best interest in mind and is not just looking for money. But unfortunately, in the social media world now that we live in, it's so easy. And there's no regulatory body out there that says, no, you can't be a coach. Anybody can claim that they're a coach and anybody can take your money. And they do that left and right. And I think it's changed the online coaching world, especially in the last couple of years, because prior to COVID, it was something that was a little bit foreign to people. Like, how can you train somebody online if you're not, I need a coach. I need somebody in person. That's not necessarily needed for most people because nutrition is the biggest battle, right? And so if you don't have somebody giving you guidance there and holding you accountable, then your likelihood of succeeding is extremely low. I mean, you can go to any big box gym near you and hire a coach that got a certification last weekend that doesn't know any more than you do, but they've got a program that they're following, and they're saying, oh yeah, do this, do that. And they don't have the tips to help you work through injuries or show you proper form or guide you on nutrition. And so one thing I say that has changed just in the last couple of years, since everybody went online during COVID, is that a lot of people are jaded. And I think a lot of people have had bad experiences with online coaches, and then we all get lumped into that crowd because they've had a bad experience with somebody that did not know what they were doing. And so they're very skeptical. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what to believe, who to follow, who's telling the truth, who's stuck in their own narrative, who has this dogmatic belief that there's only one way to get there. I believe there's a lot of different ways, and you just got to find the right one for you. The other thing I was going to say too is that there's an overabundance of information. Anything you or I could tell people, you can find online. You can research it. You can find it. You can find maybe even word for word the same stuff that I've read. But the ability to filter and decipher all of that information is damn near impossible. And that's what leads people astray. And I even get that with clients all the time. Like, oh, I read this on Reddit, or I saw this girl post about this. What do you think about that? I'm like, it's BS. Like, I don't know why you would believe that, but yeah, you see that all the time because the information never stops and it's only increasing.
And you have an all-encompassing muscle mastery program, and that's what it's called, Muscle Mastery, which I love that name. And it is all-encompassing. It handles every aspect of someone's life that you would need as far as transforming. I shouldn't say every aspect. I mean, it's not like you're doing like you're praying for people or you're doing business coaching. I think it's every health aspect of unless you really are doing that. But the whole kit and caboodle. You've got the workouts, you've got the nutrition plan, and you've got the hormone optimization that you can handle as well, right?
Yeah, and then a really big part of it too. We call it our True Shift method, and I don't know that I've spent too much time talking to you about this, but it really is like the mindset shift that has to happen. That shift in identity that needs to occur if you really want to make this long term, because ultimately the decision making is made up here. And it's what's going on between the ears that really determines what's going on with your physical body. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. And especially if you've been at this, you've been trying to lose weight or been battling weight your entire life. Yeah, you can go to the gym. Yeah, you can eat some chicken. But is that going to result in something that lasts long term? Probably not. There's probably some unresolved trauma. There's probably some limiting beliefs and self-sabotage that continually happen. And so you have to work through those things as well as part of the process in order to overcome those limiting beliefs and that identity that you have established or you believe about yourself in order to truly transform. So it really is an inside out transformation that needs to happen. And that's really the approach that we've tried to take.
Yeah. And with almost 8,000 success stories, you know what you're doing. And how can people get a hold of you, Jeff?
Instagram's the best route. So just add Jeff Later. You can find me JEFFLATER. I post content on there all the time, and I take a no BS approach. I'm very bold with what I say, cause I think that's what people need. And I try not to sugarcoat. I try not to, beat around the bush. I want to give you guys information that's actionable, that's valuable. And then, also share motivational stories. Cause you may see a body in there than the before state that looks like you, and you see what they've been able to do. And it should show you that it's possible. And I think it's important whenever I post transformations too, to help people understand that this didn't happen overnight, that it wasn't an easy path for them either. They went through ups and downs. They went through days where they wanted to quit, days where it was super hard, where they might have even been in tears, but they kept going. And they were able to achieve that transformation despite all the challenges and obstacles that every single one of you will encounter along the way. And that's what I think sometimes from an expectation standpoint, we don't always have. I think we always wait for the perfect time. We wait until if there's going to be less conflict or we're going to be less busy. But, as Hormozi says, like if you give up every time you face an obstacle, you are training yourself to give up every time you face an obstacle. So that's when you need coaching, you need guidance, you need accountability more, is when you're facing those busy times, those obstacles, those travel and maybe even a pregnancy, different obstacles that come along the way. And that's really where a coach proves to be the most valuable, but it's also when people quit.
And of course, we have our VIP program, coderedlifestyle.com/VIP. You can look that up and work closely with a VIP coach, and a couple of great options for you guys. Jeff, as usual, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your insight. You always, we say the same thing, but we have different way of saying it and a kind of a different approach. And I love it. I love the contrast, and it's always fun to have you on. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
You guys, we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.